Gardening leave, that's a term where it's a bit
well,
like being
it's close to being suspended. I'm not
suspended.
under any disciplinary action at this stage.
Right.
I'm simply, it's not in the organisation's best interest to have me at work while they're contemplating what they were going to do with me.
Yeah.
So it then occurs that there's a disciplinary hearing schedule for the 2nd of September in 2010.
Yeah.
So from the last time I have contact within the organisation itself is the 12th of July, and then I'm on leave for 3 weeks, then gardening leave.
So, and then you were asked to go to this hearing?
Appeal. This disciplinary hearing.
Disciplinary hearing.
Yes, where I've already been notified that there's a potential that I could be dismissed.
Right, okay, so tell us what happened when you went to this disciplinary hearing.
Yes, I went alone. I didn't have any. I chose not to have any union representation. I wasn't in the union. I didn't need anybody with me. I presented my own defence, and the Director of Intelligence presented the management case. Now, and the Director of Finance, a member of Senior Command Team, decided that my beliefs were made my position as Principal Intelligence Analyst untenable.
Right.
He did not say that my beliefs were incorrect. He said they could be true. He did not say that there was any allegation of any kind of misconduct whatsoever.
So he actually said they may be true?
Yeah.
Right.
It's not just said, it's written down in the transcripts that this was quite a solemn occasion in one sense. It was a bizarre in one sense because they were sacking me.
But you felt
I'd not done anything wrong in a way.
Right. So
it's just an incompatible belief.
Is this the point where one of the officers said, Tony, we're never going to change them?
No, that wasn't.
That was in another.
At an earlier meeting with the Director of Intelligence, when I first broached the subject of the notion of 9/11, 7/7 being inside jobs, then there wasn't any. From my Director of Intelligence, there certainly wasn't any attempt to rubbish my notion. On the contrary, it was almost like, Tony, what can we do about it? We're just the foot soldiers of the government.
Right. So we can take it from that then there's some sympathy within the force with certain people who don't dispute your viewpoint.
It's difficult to say. I'd be second guessing.
Right.
I think having alerted them to the evidence out there, they may well have been aware of it before. I just don't know. But I was satisfied in my own mind that I'd done my level best to alert them to a potential problem. Now, if they'd chosen to look into it, just where the leads I'd given them, then I believe that they're intelligent enough people to have formed an opinion that there's something in it.
Okay, so at that particular hearing, you were sacked then, at that point in September?
At the hearing on the 2nd of September, I was dismissed from service as a result of having of my position as Principal Intelligence Analyst being untenable because of my incompatible beliefs. And I was given 3 months pay in lieu of notice.
Right. But they didn't actually say that your beliefs were incorrect. They just said that they're incompatible with the force, with the police force. Okay.
Senior managers the senior managers have come into contact with. I've never said my beliefs are incorrect.
Now you mentioned a priest that you went to see.
A minister.
Sorry, minister. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Tony? Because you said that you would go and see this minister, which is part of the police, the church.
Sorry, don't want to talk cross purposes here. I have not, since the dismissal, have not been in contact with any employee of South Yorkshire Police. In any kind of informal chat or anything like that, other than through the formal process of the hearing, with one exception, and that's the I have from time to time met up with the chaplain, the police headquarters chaplain, who has similar Christian beliefs to myself, who I knew before any of the issues arose that led to my dismissal. So I probably on a regular basis of about once a month would meet at a local church in Sheffield, just to keep in contact with him and to pray over the situation. He was a bit of a link back to South Yorkshire Police, and we would undoubtedly discuss, what might be happening.
Right.
But it was all speculative because he wouldn't necessarily know an awful lot what was happening.
Right.
But I was actually relating back to him how I was feeling, obviously, in a position of being dismissed, and now, trying to, decide what to do in the future with having been dismissed from police service.
Does that take away any of your pension rights, the fact that you're dismissed in that way?
Yeah, there's been an actually calculation, a preliminary one, based on how it will affect my pension at the age of 66. And the initial report that came out that was presented in front of the judge to consider was of the order of £140,000. That was on the assumption that I would be in paid employment by now.
But you've not lost any pension that's already been accrued?
No, in a way that's frozen.
That's frozen, right.
Yeah.
So you've lost potential pension earnings for the future.
That's right, yes.
Right,
yes.
Okay. So you decided to fight this decision then, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, I'd always... initially, I didn't want to appeal. But it was bizarre, really, because at the appeal hearing, I went to the police authority, and it was almost as if the dismissing officer, that would have been the Director of Finance, was encouraging me to appeal to the police authority. So they acknowledged that I'd more or less said, look, I will not appeal. If you feel there's need to sack me, so be it. I'm not. So initially, I didn't want to appeal, but I was persuaded. From a number of angles, but one, not least, from their own South Yorkshire Police manager, who were dismissing me, who said, I know you've said you won't appeal, but there is an appeal mechanism, and it's the police authority, which is a different animal, different body to the Chief Constable. So after being dismissed, I went to I sought legal advice for the first time.
Right.
And it was upon that advice that I made the decision to appeal and put the appeal into the South Yorkshire Police Authority Appeals Committee.
Okay then, Tony, well, we're going to go for another break now, and after the break we're going to continue with Tony's story as it unfolds, because it's at a fairly crucial stage. You're awaiting a tribunal at the moment, but we'll talk more after this. I'm talking with Tony Farrell, who is an ex-principal intelligence officer for South Yorkshire Police, and we were just talking before the break about the fact that you were sacked because you wanted to do a threat assessment which contained information about false flag terrorism. They weren't happy with that. They said that was untenable, so they've sacked you. You then felt that they were encouraging you to appeal against this sacking then?
Well, just want to be clear, they sacked me for the beliefs I held, and the beliefs I held were articulated in the explanatory report that explained why I made my stance. Right? The issue of the fact that the assignment didn't get delivered, what was what triggered the request for me to explain myself in a report, and it was the views that I expressed in that report that I believe, it's my understanding is correct, that subsequently led to my dismissal. Okay.
So if you'd put a different point of view in this report, explained yourself in a different way, you probably wouldn't have got sacked.
Yeah, but the only thing that was contained in that report was my honest opinions and beliefs and analysis. So I presented them with a problem, and they had to make a judgment as to where that left me as a principal intelligence analyst.
So you said that initially you thought, no, I'm not going to appeal against this, and then you changed your mind.
Yes.
What made you change your mind?
Well, the driving factor was the persuasiveness of the Director of Finance at the initial hearing as he sacked me, which was it was a bizarre occasion. It was not nasty. It was very amicable and very sad. And he himself said this is a very sad occasion for South Yorkshire Police. And commented on my performance over the years, and of course there was no allegation of any incapability or any misconduct here. and I felt that was genuine, that they felt as though it would be in my interest to appeal to the police authority.
Yeah.
And I also, when I had time to stand back and reflect of the wider treatment and the importance of all of this, I came to the conclusion that I must appeal.
Yes.
So it's important for the
truth movement, you think?
One element was clearly the truth movement, but another element was personal justice. I felt as though they were using a sledgehammer to crack a nut in actually dismissing somebody who'd actually stood up for the truth,
yes,
which was in accordance with their own professional standards for honesty and integrity. So I felt as though wrong had been done to me, but this was more important than Tony-Farrell. There was wider issues at stake here. We were talking about corruption in the highest places of a monstrous kind. Therefore, the more I became involved in this case, and for all sorts of other reasons, some of which were to do with my calling, my Christian calling, my religious beliefs, I felt compelled to make this stance. My conscience told me I had to make this stance. So there was an element.
You mentioned the 9th commandment.
Thou shalt not false witness against one's neighbour.
Yeah.
But there were other compelling, at the time I had deep spiritual Christian faith, and that I felt that there was a calling here to stand up and be counted, stand up for the truth. So that was what has given me great strength and the courage to actually make that stance, knowing full well that it could harm me. It could, I fully, when I made this stance, I was fully aware of the possibility of job loss. It's affected I've had to sell all my shares in a business I had. So it's been considerably harmful in terms of my personal financial security.
Yes. Now you submitted, because this document, which is a religious philosophical belief statement of Anthony Farrell. So it's some document. This is your argument basically for stating your beliefs.
Right.
And tell us.
Well, I appealed it to the Employment Tribunal.
Sure.
And there were two issues for the judge to determine initially. Whether this was potentially an unfair dismissal, and whether this was a discrimination on grounds of my beliefs. So the way the judge decided to sort this out was to treat them separately, and therefore the first thing that needed to be sorted out, which was done at a recent pre-hearing, was to determine whether my beliefs were protected under the employment law.
This is where you're not allowed to discriminate against anyone who has a particular religious belief.
And the relevant employment regulations are the employment brackets religious and belief regulations from 2003.
Yes.
And they are applicable to religious beliefs and philosophical or philosophical beliefs.
Yes.
Now, and my beliefs, I think, were, to be fair, were a combination of religious beliefs, philosophical beliefs, and non-philosophical beliefs, because there were an element that, in order to believe that the government were lying, for instance, I didn't need philosophical beliefs to tell me that. But in the wider strategic threat, there were elements where I was saying we have a satanic ideology here that's underpinned by the New World Order, and that can be drawn from biblical prophecy. That, in essence, is all prophesied. Now, for me to believe that, clearly that's a religious belief that believes in elements of the Bible.
Yeah.
And there were philosophical beliefs that had to be considered too.